the shadows I wander, caught in a web of despair, chasing dreams that slipped away, bringing the heavy air. Each moment felt like drowning, every choice a bitter chain. But in the depths of sorrow, I found strength within the pain. Forth from the pain I rise anew, through the struggles I'll fight for you. With every scar, story to share, I'm learning to breathe in the open air. Out of the darkness I claim my light. Forth from the pain I'm ready to fight. Waves of doubt, they crash around, but I'm stronger than before. Each step I take on this hard road opens up another door, with hope as my companion and a love to light the way. I'll embrace the journey, let the past fade away. And when the clouds roll in and the nights feel long, I'll remember my strength. In this heart I belong. Together we'll stand in the warmth of our grace. Every tear that we shed turns to growth in this space. Forth from the pain I'll rise anew, through the struggles I'll fight for you. With every star, story to share, I'm learning to breathe in the open air. Out of the darkness I claim my light. Forth from the pain I'm ready to fly.
Hello, you wonderful warriors. Welcome back to another electrifying episode of Forged from Pain, the podcast that turns life's toughest challenges into empowering stories and invaluable lessons. I'm your host, Sir Grimm, your companion on this incredible journey of growth, healing, and self-discovery. If you've been with us on this adventure, you know we've been diving deep into resilience and the intricate dance of communication during recovery. Remember how, in episode 1, we unlocked the power of resilience, discovering just how our struggles can be our greatest mentors. Then, in episode 2, we got vocal and unveiled effective communication strategies. And in episode 3, we took a mindful detour as the mindful communicator, balancing emotion and expression like seasoned pros. And last week, we explored the role of family in recovery, learning to navigate that tricky terrain between support and enabling. Now, with all that groundwork laid, we're ready to leap into today's thrilling topic, embracing vulnerability and breaking down the emotional barriers. We're going to dive into the importance of dropping those shields, identifying what holds us back, and revealing the incredible strength that blooms when we allow ourselves to be truly vulnerable. So grab your favorite cozy blanket, pour yourself a steaming cup of your go-to drink, and let's embark on this enlightening journey together. It's time to roll up our sleeves, break down those barriers, and step boldly into the realm of empowerment. Let's kick things off by exploring what vulnerability really means. So what is vulnerability? Vulnerability is all about being willing to show your true self. It means letting your emotions, fears, and imperfections come to the surface without the proactive shield we often carry in our everyday lives. It's about taking the risks of exposing our innermost thoughts and feelings, even when that exposes us to the possibility of hurt or rejection. Now, Let's look at some examples of vulnerability. Number 1, emotional sharing. One of the primary ways we see vulnerability in action is through emotional sharing. This is when we open up and share our deepest thoughts and fears with others. For example, if you confide in a trusted friend about your fear of failing at work or even in a relationship, that alone takes a lot of courage. By being open, you're not only allowing your friend to see the real you, but you're also paving the way for deeper connections and trust. Similarly, letting someone know you have a romantic feelings for them can be incredibly daunting. The fear of rejection can feel overwhelming, but taking that leap is often what leads to greater connection, showing your commitment to living authentically regardless of what happens. Number 2 is going to be seeking help. See, another powerful expression of vulnerability is seeking help during tough times. Whether you're facing a job loss, health issues, or mental health struggles, reaching out to a therapist, joining a support group, or even confiding in friends and family shows that you recognize your limits and are willing to seek support. This process involves vulnerability on multiple levels. It means admitting that you're not okay, acknowledging that you can't handle everything alone, and allowing others to step in and assist you. Engaging in these kinds of practices can lead to healing and personal growth, reminding us that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a stepping stone towards resilience. Number 3 is acknowledging mistakes. So, admitting when we're wrong, whether in our professional lives or personal ones, is another example of vulnerability. When you own up to a mistake, like an oversight on a project at work, you demonstrate accountability and integrity. This kind of openness can create a positive shift in team dynamics, fostering a culture of transparency where everyone feels safe to share their own challenges and mistakes without fear of backlash. Recognizing errors also opens the door to constructive feedback and growth, reminding us that vulnerability can lead to empowerment rather than punishment. And number 4, creative expression. Lastly, let's consider how vulnerability plays a role in creative expression. See, when artists share their work, be it through art, writing, music, they're offering not just the finished product, but a glimpse into their inner world, their thoughts, and their emotions. This act can be quite vulnerable, as it invites not just judgment and critique, yet it can also foster a profound connection with others, inspiring dialogues about our shared human experiences and creating a sense of belonging among those who resonate with the work. So, as we move through this segment, I want you to keep these examples in mind. Understanding vulnerability is the first step in embracing it, both within ourselves and in our connections with others. Now, let's talk about a few ways vulnerability is often misunderstood. First up is it's perceived as weakness. See, many people equate vulnerability with weakness, believing it's something to avoid at all costs. Society often sends the message that showing emotion or admitting to struggles makes us less capable or less strong. But the truth is, it takes incredible courage to be vulnerable. It demands raw honesty and a willingness to face our fears head on. Next is the fear of judgment. See, another misunderstanding about vulnerability is the fear that exposing our true selves will lead to judgment or rejection from others. This fear often holds people back from opening up, which can lead to feelings of isolation and prevent genuine connections from forming. Now, the next one is going to be complacency versus growth. See, some folks might confuse vulnerability with complacency, thinking that being vulnerable means adopting a victim mentality or not striving for improvement. In reality, true vulnerability can actually be a powerful catalyst for growth and healing. It encourages deeper understanding and stronger connections with ourselves and those around us. Lastly, is its misinterpretation of strength. You see, on the flip side, vulnerability is frequently misconstrued as a sign of lack of control. In fact, embracing vulnerability helps us cultivate emotional intelligence, resilience, and empathy. It ultimately leads to stronger relationships and greater personal fulfillment. By reframing vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness, we can start to break down these misconceptions. Together, we can foster a culture that values authenticity, openness, and the bravery it takes to be emotionally vulnerable. Next up, we're going to go ahead and dive into the benefits of embracing vulnerability. The first benefit is fostering deeper connections. When we embrace vulnerability, we're opening up and sharing our authentic selves with others. This leads to stronger emotional bonds. Vulnerability creates space for genuine conversations that may not happen otherwise, allowing our relationships to move from surface level interactions to deeper intimacy. As a result, we build greater trust and understanding among friends, partners, and family members. The second benefit is enhancing emotional intelligence. You see, by embracing vulnerability, we also nurture our emotional intelligence. This means becoming more aware of our own emotions and those of others. When we acknowledge our own struggles and feelings, we become better at recognizing and empathizing with others that are experiencing. This fosters an even deeper connection. And that leads us into the third benefit, which is it encourages personal growth. See, taking risks and exposing ourselves through vulnerability can lead to significant personal growth. When we face our fears and limitations, we often uncover new strengths and resilience we didn't even know we had. Embracing vulnerability challenges us to step outside of our comfort zones, leading to new experiences and opportunities for growth. The fourth benefit is promoting authenticity. See, vulnerability allows us to show our true selves without the masks that we often wear in social situations. This authenticity not only helps us attract genuine relationships, but also creates environments, whether at home, work, or even within our community, where others can feel safe to express their true selves as well. And finally, number 5, catalyzing creativity and innovation. Finally, vulnerability plays a crucial role in creativity. When we share our ideas, art, writing, or music, even in the face of potential judgment, we contribute to a culture of innovation and shared expression. Embracing vulnerability in our creative pursuits can lead to incredible breakthroughs and inspire others to share their own creative talents. Next, we have the psychological and relational benefits. Let's start with the psychological benefits. The first one being mitigating feelings of isolation and loneliness. When we openly share our vulnerabilities, our fears, insecurities, and failures, we often find that others are going through similar struggles. This realization fosters empathy and connection, breaking down the walls of isolation. For instance, in support groups or therapeutic settings, sharing personal stories can help us see that we're not alone. This shared experience is a powerful antidote to loneliness. And to add on that just a little bit more, it brings me back to my NA days when I was going through Narcotics Anonymous. And almost every new person that comes in, we're all the same. Like, almost rarely does anybody share their story or their struggles on the first session because of that feeling of isolation and loneliness. Like, we feel like we are the only ones. And it is through the panel in NA where we go around the circle, introduce ourselves, and give a brief introductory of our struggles and our background, to where it opens up the eyes of the newcomers to see, like, oh, we're not alone. You feel that same way too? Oh my God, that makes me feel better. And then the next session we come in and we share, because now we know, hey, we're not alone. Like, we got a whole room of people who actually know what we're going through because they've gone through the same thing. But you never know if you don't talk it out. And that brings us into the second section of the mitigating feelings, which is building community. See, expressing our vulnerabilities can also attract like-minded people who resonate with our experiences, creating communities that nurture mutual understanding and support. It reinforces the idea that we're all in this together. Now, the second psychological benefit is reducing anxiety. When we share our vulnerabilities, it gives us the chance to process our emotions instead of bottling them up. Keeping our feelings inside can lead to increased anxiety and stress. But by discussing our fears and insecurities, we can externalize and analyze those feelings, which often reduces their intensity and brings a sense of relief. And then we have reframing negative thoughts. Vulnerability also encourages us to confront and reframe negative thought patterns. Talking about our fears allows us to challenge irrational beliefs and gain perspective, turning feelings of inequity or shame into opportunities for growth. The third psychological benefit we have is enhancing mental health through therapeutic benefits. Sharing our vulnerabilities can be a powerful catalyst for healing. Therapeutic approaches often highlight the importance of vulnerability in treatment. Clients who open up about their struggles tend to engage more meaningfully in the healing process. This transparency can feel cathartic and liberating, leading to improved emotional well-being and building resilience. Lastly, embracing vulnerability helps build resilience. By facing our fears and learning to cope with emotional discomfort, we develop skills and coping mechanisms that prepare us for future challenges. This resilience not only boosts self-esteem, but also enhances our overall mental health. Next, let's talk about the relational benefits. The first one being promoting transparency and open communication. Vulnerability really creates a foundation for honest communication. When one partner opens up about their vulnerabilities, it encourages the other partner to do the same. And in doing so, this creates a safe environment where both sides can discuss their feelings and needs without feeling judged or misunderstood, as well as it's honest conversations. See, in relationships where vulnerability is practiced, conflicts are approached with a clearer understanding of each person's emotions and perspectives. Instead of blaming each other or shutting down during disagreements, partners are more likely to have constructive conversations that help resolve issues together. The second relational benefit is supporting emotional needs. Vulnerability enhances our ability to empathize with one another. When one partner shares their struggles, the other can respond with compassion and support, validating their feelings. This mutual understanding strengthens the emotional bond between the two, just like strengthening emotional support. When we share our vulnerabilities, it often invites a nurturing response from our partners. This creates a dynamic of mutual support where both feel safe to express their emotional needs without hesitation or fear of judgment. The third relational benefit is increasing relationship satisfaction and longevity, building trust. See, trust is essential for healthy relationships. Vulnerability encourages us to share our personal views and experiences, which enhances the trustworthiness between partners. As trust deepens, both individuals feel more secure in their relationship, leading to greater satisfaction, as well as preventing the resentment. See, by addressing issues openly rather than holding on to unexpressed grievances, vulnerability helps prevent resentment from building up. See, when both parties feel comfortable sharing their vulnerabilities, it reduces the likelihood of silent resentment or withdrawal that can lead to long-term dissatisfaction or emotional disconnection. The fourth and final relational benefit is creating a fulfilling environment, like mutual growth. See, relationships thrive on mutual growth. When both partners embrace vulnerability, they embark on a journey of personal and relational development. This enriches their connection and encourages individual discovery. And lastly, the enhancing of intimacy. See, vulnerability is a key ingredient for building intimacy. When partners share their fears, their dreams, and insecurities, it fosters a deeper emotional connection that goes beyond just physical intimacy. The more we practice vulnerability and the more deeply we can connect, just leads to a more fulfilling and enriching relationship. By exploring these layers of psychological and relational benefits, we can see how embracing vulnerability not only supports our individual well-being, but also strengthens the bonds we share with our partners, paving the way for healthier and more fulfilling relationships. Now, what are some common misconceptions about vulnerability? Number one is that vulnerability equals weakness. See, a lot of people see vulnerability as a weakness, thinking it shows a lack of strength, courage, or control. This belief can hold individuals back from embracing vulnerability and hinder the genuine interactions and connections. Second is vulnerability is always emotional. See, some might think that vulnerability only involves sharing emotions, but it also includes things like creative expression, asking for help, or admitting mistakes. This limited view can create misunderstandings about what being vulnerable really means, and it could hinder you in your entire journey. Number three, vulnerability leads to manipulation. See, there's a fear that showing vulnerability can leave a person open to being taken advantage of or manipulated. While it's true that some may respond insensitively at times, it's important to understand that true vulnerability is about being open, not being naive. And then lastly, number four, vulnerability is not for everyone. Another common myth is that vulnerability is something only certain personality types, like extroverts, can embrace, while introverts are seen as less capable of being vulnerable. In reality, vulnerability is for everyone, regardless of your personality type. Anyone and everyone has the capacity for vulnerability. It's just whether you're going to apply it or not. Next, we have what are some ways we can educate people on the misconceptions about vulnerability? Well, to start off, we got number one, storytelling and sharing personal experiences. See, the power of personal narratives. I believe storytelling is an incredibly powerful way to show that vulnerability can lead to personal growth and deeper connections. When we share our own experiences of being vulnerable, it makes the concept more relatable and invokes empathy. Through our stories, we can highlight transformative moments when vulnerability brought forth unexpected strength, resilience, or richer relationships with others, just like structured sharing. You see, setting up structured opportunities for sharing, like storytelling circles or open mic nights, can really encourage people to talk about their journeys with vulnerability. Having a framework for sharing not only provides guidelines, but also creates a safe space for everyone. It's important to include diverse voices, those who have overcome challenges, alongside those who are still navigating their struggles, because it can enrich our discussions and illustrate that vulnerability is something we all experience as human beings. And then emotional resonance. See, when someone openly expresses their vulnerabilities, it can resonate with others on an emotional level, prompting them to think about their own fears and insecurities. This connection helps build a sense of community and solidarity, breaking down walls and fostering a collective understanding that vulnerability is a shared human experience. The next way we can educate people is number 2, through workshops and seminars like focused learning. I think hosting workshops that emphasize emotional intelligence and resilience through vulnerability can create a structured learning experience. These workshops would allow participants to engage in interactive activities that promote self-reflection and discussions about their views on vulnerability. This environment can help debunk myths like the idea that vulnerability is a sign of weakness, while highlighting its crucial role in building strong relationships, or even a skill building exercise. See, workshops can also include practical skills training, such as effective ways to communicate vulnerabilities or practice active listening and giving constructive feedback. Role-playing scenarios can give individuals a chance to practice moments of vulnerability in a safe setting, helping them gain confidence to apply what they learn in real life. Or you can have expert facilitation, you know, bringing in trained facilitators like psychologists, counselors, or even coaches can add credibility and create a safe emotional space for everyone involved. These experts can steer discussions, offer insights into common misconceptions, and provide tailored strategies for personal growth. Now, the next way we can educate people is number 3, use of media and literature, like curated content. Personally, I think it would be great to put together a list of impactful literature, films, even TED Talks, podcasts, and documentaries that delve into vulnerability. Content featuring well-known figures like Jordan Peterson or Brennan Brown, who has done extensive research on this topic, can be really valuable. Their insights can spark discussion and reflection, helping us all reconsider what vulnerability truly means, as well as discussion groups. See, we could create book clubs or media discussion groups centered around vulnerability themed content. Discussing these materials together can deepen, our understanding and engagement, allowing everyone to express their thoughts and feelings about what they've experienced. Critical media literacy. All right. I believe it's important to encourage people to approach media with a critical eye. By examining how vulnerability is depicted across different cultural contexts, both positively and negatively, we can help participants learn to analyze and challenge social norms that stigmatize vulnerability. This awareness can empower them to navigate their own perspectives with more confidence. Next, number 4 is creating safe space for dialogue, like peer support groups. See, I think it's important to establish peer-led support groups where we can talk about vulnerability in a judgment-free environment, which is one of the reasons why me and my brother also started the Unholy Trinity peer-to-peer server on Discord. You can find that link in our Forged from Pain podcast Discord. Hope to see y'all there. These groups, though, could focus on common fears like the fear of rejection, the fear of being judged, and explore how such fears hold us back from being open with each other. And then again, the facilitated discussions. Like, it could really help to have trained facilitators lead these groups. They can guide the conversations without taking control, allowing individuals to express themselves while feeling supported by their peers. Topics could cover myths about vulnerability, personal experiences, and even the benefits of embracing it. And then the normalization of vulnerability. Having regular open conversations about vulnerability can help normalize it within the group and eventually in our wider community. As we share our struggles, we share an atmosphere of acceptance and openness, which can significantly reduce the stigma. Lastly, the last way to educate on the misconceptions is number 5, leading by example. Role modeling. See, I believe that leaders, mentors, and even role models can play a huge role in changing how we perceive vulnerability. When we openly talk about our own challenges and limitations, we can show that being vulnerable is not a weakness, but a strength. By sharing personal stories of failure and growth, they can come across as authentic and relatable. Next is the transparency in leadership. See, leaders who practice transparency about their vulnerabilities help create environments where others feel more comfortable doing the same. This is especially important in corporate settings where traditional hierarchies can often discourage openness. Being transparent can break down rigid structures and promote collaboration and mutual support. And lastly, encouraging innovation. See, when leaders talk about their mistakes and the lessons they've learned, it fosters a culture where innovation is embraced. Employees are more likely to take creative risks and share their ideas when they see their leaders valuing vulnerability and viewing setbacks as opportunities for growth. In summary, educating people about the misconceptions of vulnerability requires innovative and holistic methods that include storytelling, structured learning, media engagement, safe dialogue, and exemplary leadership. Each of these approaches offers unique ways for individuals to understand vulnerability's true nature and significance. By creating environments that see vulnerability as a strength in an act of courage, we can collectively challenge these misconceptions, leading to healthier relationships and enhance personal growth. Ultimately, embracing vulnerability can help us forge deeper connections, build greater emotional resilience, and cultivate a more empathetic society. Now, we'll be going into the next section where we will be going over the emotional barriers, starting with how can we identify our emotional barriers? See, I believe that identifying our emotional barriers is a critical first step towards personal growth and building better relationships. These barriers can deeply ingrain and sometimes subtle, which makes them tough to spot. I'm going to give y'all some effective ways we can begin to identify these emotional barriers. Starting off with number one, self-reflection and journaling. I find that engaging in self-reflection through journaling is a powerful tool. It allows us to explore our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors, which can often reveal underlying emotional barriers. Using writing prompts that focus on past events, reoccurring patterns, or feelings that come up in different situations can help pinpoint areas where we might be holding ourselves back emotionally. Number two is through mindfulness and emotional awareness. Practicing mindfulness is another great way to enhance our awareness of emotions and reactions in real time. By simply observing our emotional responses to various situations, we can better understand our triggers and identify the barriers that might be keeping us from fully engaging with ourselves and others. Number three is through feedback from trusted individuals. Sometimes those around us can see our emotional barriers more clearly than we do. Seeking feedback from trusted friends or family members can help uncover patterns of behavior or emotional reactions we might be unaware of, offering a path for further exploration. And number four, therapeutic support. See, working with the therapist can provide a structured and safe space to delve into our emotional barriers. Therapeutic conversations can foster a deeper understanding of these issues and equip us with tools to confront and work through them effectively. Now, I know a lot of you are already going, but what is an emotional barrier? So, here's a little definition for you. Emotional barriers are psychological defense mechanisms that we create to protect ourselves from emotional pain, discomfort, or vulnerability. These barriers act like walls that prevent us from expressing our emotions, create distance in our relationships, and keeps us from fully engaging with our feelings and experiences. While these barriers can shield us from perceived threats like rejection or criticism, they often come at the cost of genuine connection and emotional fulfillment. And that'll lead us into some characteristics of emotional barriers, starting with cognitive distortions. One of the ways these barriers manifest is through cognitive distortions. We might fall into negative thinking patterns that worsen our emotional barriers, like catastrophizing or overgeneralizing. For example, someone might think that because they faced rejection once, then they're always going to face rejection. And that brings me back to one of the old sayings my grandpa used to tell me. If you never ask, the answer is always no. The next one characteristic is avoidance. See, emotional barriers can also lead us to avoid situations or topics that make us uncomfortable. Instead of confronting our feelings, we might choose to disengage from relationships or steer clear of discussions, including discussions about vulnerability. The next characteristic is emotional numbing. Some of us might resort to emotional numbing, essentially shutting down our feelings altogether as a coping mechanism. This can create a disconnect from both positive and negative emotions, leading to an overall diminished emotional experience. All right. So now I'll give you some various types of emotional barriers. We're only going to hit 5 of them. So, number 1, fear of judgment. I think fear of judgment is a major barrier for many of us. It comes from the anxiety of being criticized or judged negatively by others. Because of this fear, we might even hold back from sharing our true selves or expressing our genuine thoughts and feelings just to avoid potential rejection or even shame. Number 2 is past traumas. See, past experiences, especially traumatic ones like abuse, loss, or extreme betrayal, can create significant emotional barriers. These experiences can lead us to react defensively in similar situations, making it hard to trust others and causing us to withdraw emotionally. Number 3 is perfectionism. The drive for perfection can also be a barrier. It often comes with a fear of failure or feeling inadequate. Because of this fear, we might shy away from trying new things or expressing our true selves, worried that we won't live up to our own high expectations. Number 4 is low self-esteem. When we struggle with low self-worth, we might feel unworthy of love, connection, or even happiness. This can lead us to withdraw and protect ourselves emotionally, which can result in missed chances for meaningful relationships and personal growth. And lastly, number 5, insecurity and comparing to others. I've noticed that constantly comparing ourselves to others can create emotional barriers stemming from feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. It is through this insecurity that can make us downplay our own achievements or even avoid social situations altogether. Next, I'm going to throw some statistics on impact towards y'all. Starting off with number 1, feelings of inadequacy. See, I've come across research that shows nearly 70% of people experience feelings of inadequacy in social situations. See, even though this statistic usually comes from surveys that look at self-esteem, social anxiety, and how people perceive their social skills, many respondents mention specific triggers like public speaking, meeting new people, or being in group settings where they fear they'll be scrutinized or compared to others. These feelings can show up in different ways, like going quiet in group discussions or completely avoiding social events. When we internalize feelings of inadequacy, this can deepen the psychological impact, leading to a downward spiral that affects our overall mental health. Those who struggle with feelings of inadequacy often report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and loneliness, which only fuels the cycle of avoidance and disconnection. The next statistics on impact is avoidance due to fear of judgment. See, a survey by the American Psychological Association, or APA, found that over 60% of individuals avoid social situations because they're worried about being judged. This is especially common among young adults and adolescents, where social dynamics often hinge on peer acceptance and approval. This avoidance can take many forms. For instance, we might skip gatherings, hold back from speaking up in discussions, or turn down invitations to activities where we feel our performance will be scrutinized. Unfortunately, this leads to missed opportunities for personal development as we forfeit social experiences that help build confidence, resilience, and social skills. Now, the last statistic I'm going to give out to y'all is on the impact on mental health and relationships. The effects on emotional barriers, like feelings of inadequacy and fear of judgment, reach far beyond just social interactions. They can contribute to larger mental health issues, showing up as anxiety disorders, depression, and even social phobias. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, about 12% of the U.S. population experiences social anxiety disorder at some point in their lives, which is heavily influenced by these emotional barriers. All right. The next set of statistics is going to be in the workplace implications, expressions of opinions. Approximately 50% of employees report feeling unable to express their opinions in professional environments due to fear of negative consequences. This fear is often rooted in concerns about how their input will be perceived by colleagues or superiors. Common fears include the possibility of being ridiculed, dismissed, or facing professional repercussions. The culture within an organization can exacerbate these feelings. In workplaces where hierarchical structures are rigid, employees may feel particularly constrained and apprehensive about voicing dissent or proposing new ideas. This silence creates a vacuum where innovation ideas and constructive feedback are stifled, leading to stagnation within the team or organization. Number 2 is consequences of disengagement. The inability to express oneself can lead to significant workplace disengagement. Employees who feel their voices are muted often exhibit lower morale, increased absenteeism, and higher turnover rates. Now, Gallup's State of the American Workplace report illustrates that disengaged employees cost organizations between $450 and $550 billion annually in lost productivity. Disengagement can create a toxic cycle as morale decreases, so too does the overall workplace environment, leading to further emotional barriers being erected among team members. The overall psychological safety of the work environment is compromised, making it difficult for employees to share vulnerabilities and inhibit a collaborative culture. And then we have number 3, the statistic on the effect on team dynamics. Actually, I don't even think I have a statistic for that one. Nope. So I'll just be talking. Awesome. There was a study conducted by Harvard Business Review, but we'll get into that. So, emotional barriers also play a critical role in team dynamics and relationships among colleagues. When team members are unable to openly communicate their ideas or concerns due to fear, it compromises trust and collaboration. This lack of openness can lead to misunderstandings, a buildup of resentment, and ultimately a fractured team dynamic. Now, a study conducted by Harvard Business Review found that teams with higher levels of psychological safety, where members feel safe to take risks and express themselves without fear of judgment, were more effective and innovative. When emotional barriers prevent the development of this safety, it stunts collaborative efforts and hinders team performance. Lastly, in the work setting, we have the number 4, long-term effects on career advancement. Now, the inability to communicate effectively can result in missed opportunities for professional growth and development. Employees who feel silenced may not advocate for themselves in performance reviews, express interests in promotional opportunities, or ask for professional development resources. Over time, this can lead to career stagnation and an overall sense of dissatisfaction with one's career trajectory. Professional networking is also severely affected by emotional barriers. Individuals who avoid social situations due to fear of judgment are less likely to seek mentorship, attend industry events, or cultivate personal relationships that could advance their careers. These statistics highlighting how emotional barriers affect individuals in both social and workplace contexts illustrates a profound impact on mental health, performance, and overall life satisfaction. These barriers can create significant challenges that inhibit not only personal relationships, but also personal development and fulfillment. Recognizing and addressing these barriers is crucial for individuals and organizations alike, as it paves the way for improved communication, deeper connections, and enhanced emotional well-being. Transitioning to environments that prioritize openness and psychological safety benefits not just the individual, but the collective dynamic of teams and relationships, ultimately leading to more engaged and fulfilled lives. And next, we have its impact on relationships. Hindrance to connection. See, emotional barriers create walls that inhibit genuine connection. When individuals are unable to share their authentic selves, relationships can remain superficial, preventing deeper emotional intimacy. This disconnect can lead partners or friends to feel isolated or misunderstood, undermining the fabric of the relationship. Number 2 is communication breakdowns. When fear of judgment or past traumas dominate, individuals may struggle to communicate openly. This can result in misunderstandings, resentment, and conflict, as unexpressed feelings and needs simmer below the surface. The lack of communication can create a cycle where unresolved issues lead to further emotional distance. Number 3, trust issues. Emotional barriers, particularly those rooted in past traumas, can severely impact trust. When individuals are unable to be vulnerable, their partners may feel rejected or unimportant, leading to defensiveness and further distancing. This cycle can erode trust and stir insecurities, making relationships fragile. Number 4, avoidance of conflict. Emotional barriers often lead individuals to avoid situations that might invoke difficult emotions or conflicts. While this might seem beneficial in the short term, it prevents healthy conflict resolution and growth within relationships. Avoidance can compromise relationship stability and lead to emotional bottlenecking. And then number 5, overall satisfaction. You see, ultimately, emotional barriers can lead to decreased satisfaction in relationships. Individuals may find themselves feeling lonely or unfulfilled as their emotional needs remain unmet. This may result in delusionment and a sense of hopelessness surrounding the potential for intimate connections. But emotional barriers, while initially protective, can create significant obstacles to personal growth and authentic relationships. But by understanding and identifying these barriers, individuals can begin the journey toward breaking them down, fostering deeper connections, and creating a fulfilled emotional existence. Recognizing the impact of these barriers on relationships is critical for individuals seeking to enhance their emotional intelligence, improve communication, and ultimately build stronger, more meaningful connections. And that, my friends, will lead us into segment 4, which is strategies for breaking down emotional barriers. Starting with number 1, practical techniques. So let's start by discussing some practical techniques for overcoming emotional barriers. Understanding that vulnerability is a crucial and powerful aspect of our emotional experience is the first step. So here are a few actionable strategies that we can employ in our daily lives, starting with journaling. One of the simplest yet most effective techniques for exploring our emotional barriers is journaling. By taking 10 to 15 minutes each day to write about our thoughts, feelings, and experiences, we can begin to identify recurring themes or fears. This self-reflection can help us clarify what holds us back from expressing our true selves. For instance, we might discover a pattern where we constantly avoid expressing our opinion in a group setting due to the fear of judgment. And then the next practice is mindfulness practice. See, mindfulness helps us stay present and aware in our emotions without judgment. By engaging in mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing exercises, we can learn to observe our feelings without being overwhelmed by them. This heightened awareness allows us to recognize when emotional barriers arise and to respond to them calmly and thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Or role playing. That's one of my favorites. See, practicing vulnerability in a controlled setting can significantly reduce anxiety. When it is time to express ourselves in real life situations, this could involve role playing scenarios with a trusted friend or mentor, where you can practice articulating your thoughts or emotions in a safe space. This helps build your confidence over time, making it easier for you to share your feelings outside of this controlled environment. You get to the point where you're like, people are like, do you know that guy? No. Why did he just give us his whole life story? It's because we are comfortable in ourselves now. So we will tell anybody and everyone. And then next is setting small goals. So begin with small, manageable steps to ease into vulnerability. For example, if you struggle to share your opinion in meetings, set a goal to contribute at least once per meeting. Each small success can build your confidence and reduce the emotional barriers you face. And the last one is affirmations and self-compassion. You have to practice self-compassion and positive affirmations. Remind yourself that it's okay to be vulnerable and imperfect. Nobody in our world is perfect. Regularly speaking to yourself with kindness can change your internal dialogue and reduce the harsh self-criticism that is often accompanies the vulnerability. So, next, let's consider a few hypothetical scenarios that illustrate how to approach a vulnerability in common situations. By analyzing these scenarios, we can better understand how to apply the techniques we've discussed. So, we'll start off the first scenario through a team meeting. So, I want you to imagine that you're in a team meeting and a discussion arises about a project. You have an idea that could significantly impact the outcome, but you're hesitant to share it for fear it might be ridiculed. To approach the situation, you can use the role-playing technique we discussed. First, practice saying your idea out loud to a friend before the meeting. Then, during the meeting, take a deep breath and remind yourself of your goal to contribute. You might start with, I understand there might be different opinions, but I'd like to share an idea that could potentially enhance our project and shorten up our finish line. Or let's consider a more personal scenario. All right. You've been feeling down, but are afraid to express your feelings to a close friend. Instead of bottling up your emotions, you can use journaling beforehand to clarify exactly how you're feeling. And then After you get down and you have clarity of yourself, reach out to your friend and say, hey, I've been going through some stuff lately, and I'd love to talk about it if you're open. This initiates the conversation and sets the stage for vulnerability. Or we can do a networking event. So picture yourself at a networking event where you feel anxious about making small talk. Instead of attempting to put on a facade of confidence, try self-compassion. During the event, remind yourself that it's natural to feel nervous. Set a small goal. Approach one person and engage in a genuine conversation. Start with something simple like, hi, this event feels overwhelming, doesn't it? You'd be surprised how acknowledging the shared experience can foster instant connection and intimacy. Or our last scenario would be during giving feedback. So you're in a performance review situation and need to provide feedback to a colleague, but fear of confrontation holds you back. Here, consider the mindfulness practice. Before the meeting, take a moment to reflect and breathe deeply to center yourself. Frame your feedback positively, starting with what they excel at before introducing the areas for improvement. This approach shows that you're both honest and considerate, promoting a culture of openness. Now, let's shift our focus to you, the listeners. I want to encourage each of you to take a moment to think about your own emotional barriers. What are the specific fears or misconceptions that prevent you from being vulnerable in your personal or professional life? I want y'all to grab a pen and paper while we do this. All right. First, I want y'all to take a few moments to jot down just a few thoughts. What situations make you feel anxious or hesitant to express your true feelings or opinions? For some, it may be fear of judgment in a social situation, or others, it may be a fear of failure in the workplace. As we go through this, I want y'all to actually go through and figure out what situations. And then, if you feel comfortable, I invite you to share in the Discord your stories. Anyone who wants to can voice a barrier they've encountered, and then we can brainstorm strategies on how to tackle that specific issue. Remember, sharing is a powerful act of vulnerability, and it can inspire others to open up too. Now, once y'all identify your barriers and you post them up in the Discord, or if you're really feeling brave, you can even comment them on wherever you're listening, whether it be Spotify. I don't know if Apple has comments. I think it does. So Spotify or YouTube, you can drop a comment on the audio, and let us know, and then we can discuss there if you don't want to join into the Discord. And then once you drop and identify your barriers, we can discuss various techniques, and then we can discuss ways that you think you can apply them. For instance, if you struggle with expressing feelings, you can start with journaling how you feel before you talk to someone else. Or if asking for help is hard, you can set a small goal to reach out to a friend or colleague this week. Now, I want y'all to also remember that overcoming emotional barriers is a journey. There's no right or wrong way to approach this, only what feels authentic to you. As you reflect and strategize, be compassionate with yourself and recognize that each step, no matter how small, is a significant move towards embracing vulnerability. Now, we've fleshed out actionable techniques to break down emotional barriers, explored relatable scenarios, and even opened the floor for y'all to engage and share your own experiences, even though that's going to be on Discord. Vulnerability might still feel daunting at times, but I want y'all to remember it's also the gateway to authentic connection and personal growth. And I want to thank all of you in advance for your participation, no matter how small. And let's go ahead and carry this conversation forward into our next segment, taking the plunge and embracing vulnerability together. As we dive deeper into the theme of vulnerability, let's talk about some practical strategies that you can incorporate into your daily lives, fostering a culture of openness and connection. One of the most impactful ways to embrace vulnerability is to initiate conversations about feelings with trusted friends or loved ones. You might begin simply by saying, "I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed lately. Can we talk about it?" This not only opens the door for your own expression, but invites the other person to share their feelings as well. Model vulnerability by being honest about your emotions, making it easier for others to reciprocate. Another powerful exercise is to write a letter to yourself. This letter can take many forms. It could be an expression of encouragement in times of a struggle, a reflection on a tough situation, or an acknowledgement of your accomplishments. This self-directed vulnerability helps you engage in self-compassion and self-reflection, reminding you that it's okay to validate your own emotions and expressions and experiences. I encourage you to revisit this letter when you're feeling hesitant about being vulnerable in front of others. Or we can consider the option of sharing personal stories with a supportive group. This could be with a close-knit circle of friends, a family gathering, or a community group. Sharing experiences of vulnerability not only strengthens your bonds, but can also inspire others in the group to open up. It creates a safe space where everyone feels appreciated and understood. Remember, storytelling is a key element of human connection, and your story has the power to resonate with someone else. As well, I want y'all to make vulnerability a part of your goal setting process. For instance, you might set a goal to express your feelings after significant events, sharing joys, disappointments, or challenges of the day with a family member or friend. This approach doesn't just expand your comfort zone, it also nurtures a habit of vulnerability over time, which can lead to deeper relationships and improved emotional well-being. Finally, I encourage you to practice active listening with others. When others show their vulnerability, when someone reaches out or shares their own story, respond with empathy and openness. Ask questions or simply affirm them by saying, "Thank you for sharing that with me. It's really meaningful." This kind of engagement creates a cycle of vulnerability where emotional honesty becomes mutual. All right. Now that we've discussed some practical strategies, I want to propose a community challenge that encourages all of you to engage with vulnerability more deeply. Now, I invite you all to take part in our vulnerability challenge over the next 2 weeks. I encourage you, each of you, to join our Discord server where we've created a dedicated channel for sharing moments of vulnerability. This could involve sharing a heartfelt story, an experience that made you feel vulnerable, or even a reflection on a time when you found the courage to express yourself. By participating in our Discord community, we're establishing a safe and supportive environment for openly discussing our experiences and feelings. What excites me about this challenge is the ability for real connection to flourish within our dedicated space. When you share your authentic moments, you invite others to open up and engage as well, helping to normalize vulnerability among us. So I encourage you to take some time to post in the channel and share not just your stories, but also your thoughts on those shared by others. Your responses can serve as encouragement and support for fellow community members. Additionally, feel free to invite friends who might benefit from this experience. So together, we can create a ripple effect of vulnerability and support that strengthens our connections within the community. So let's cultivate a culture of honest communication, compassion, and connection as we take this journey together in our Discord server. Now, to close this segment, I'd like to engage in a brief guided visualization exercise. First, let's all take a moment to settle in our seats. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and take a deep breath in through your nose, allowing your abdomen to expand. Then exhale gently through your mouth. Let's do this a few more times together. Inhaling in peace and exhaling tension. Now, I want you to envision a specific moment in your life where you'd like to practice vulnerability. Picture this scenario vividly. Who are you with? Where are you? What is happening around you? Imagine yourself in that moment. Notice the feelings that start to arise. Do you feel anxious, excited, or perhaps fearful? Acknowledge those feelings without judgment. They are completely valid. Next, visualize the support system that surrounds you in this moment. See your trusted friends, family, or mentors standing beside you, ready to listen and encourage you. Imagine sharing your feelings or stories with them. Picture their responses, words of encouragement, nods of understanding, and perhaps even tears of empathy. Finally, as you visualize this moment, remind yourself of the strength that comes from vulnerability. It takes courage to be open. You are not alone. Take another deep breath in, and as you exhale, release any remaining tension associated with this moment. Now, when you're ready, gently open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the room. Hold on to this visualization as a reminder of your capacity for vulnerability and the support available to you. In this segment, we've explored actionable strategies to incorporate vulnerability into our daily lives, a community challenge to connect and share our experiences, and a guided visualization to help you anticipate and embrace moments of vulnerability. Remember, embracing vulnerability is not a solitary journey. It's one we take together. Thank you for your openness and participation. Let's continue to foster this supportive community as we move forward. Next up for y'all, we have something new. We have a Q&A session from our listeners' questions. I'd like to welcome you all to our Q&A segment. See, I'm super excited to address a thought-provoking question from one of our listeners, Mr. Bowman. And so, thank you for submitting this, Bowman. I think a lot of us can relate to what you're feeling. So, let's dive in. See, Bowman's question revolves around the tensions between vulnerability and self-protection in our relationships. He asks about the complexities of opening up to someone you care about while grappling with the fear that if the relationship ends, that person will now know you inside and out. He also adds a rich layer to this by sharing his concern that not everyone we get close to actually cares as much as we think they do. So now let's break this down in detail because it's a nuanced and important topic. First off, vulnerability is like walking a tightrope. It can be thrilling, liberating, and downright scary at all the same time. You want to let someone in, share your thoughts, emotions, and experiences, but you also worry about the impact if things don't work out. It's totally natural to have these fears. After all, relationships, especially deep ones, require a leap of faith. See, In my early childhood, and well, technically, it felt like childhood. Good God. In my early adulthood, I finally opened up to my childhood friend, Rialta, about the deep love I had for her. However, after she ghosted me and cut ties with most of our friends, I spent years searching for her through social media sites, trying to find and wait for the moment that she'd pop back up, contacting old friends, going, "Have you seen her? Have you heard from her?" Just hoping to reconnect. Now, unfortunately, my story didn't play out like a typical love story, though we still share a friendship. Our conversations have dwindled. But from this experience, I learned some tough lessons. Like, the weight of uncertainty is heavy. The burden of truth is lighter, but the anguish of opening up too late is almost unbearable. I recall feeling like when I met someone interested in my life, I hesitated to share my own feelings, telling myself to hold back for fear that it A, wouldn't last, B, she didn't have the same type of feelings for me, so then that would just embarrass me altogether, because it's like, well, that was a friendship, but now I just ruined a friendship because I just expressed my love. There's so many things that goes through, but at the same time, if it's an actual true friendship, then that openness of vulnerability wouldn't destroy the friendship. But while being cautious can be wise, I've realized that building walls only hinders us from forming genuine connections. See, one strategy I found helpful is to start small. Instead of unloading everything at once, gradually share different parts of your life. Start with the lighter topics, things that don't feel too heavy. And as the trust builds and you feel more comfortable, you can then tackle deeper subjects. This approach allows you to gauge the other person's response, showing you whether your vulnerability is being met with empathy and care. Another key element is establishing trust. See, trust isn't granted, it's built. Take time to observe how this person treats you and others. Pay attention to their actions and words. Are they considerate? Do they genuinely listen when you speak? Trust your instincts. It's perfectly acceptable to be a bit guarded until you have enough evidence that this person values what you share. You can also establish boundaries, because boundaries are crucial for healthy relationships. If you feel uncomfortable sharing certain aspects of yourself, it's okay to protect those areas until you're ready. You might say something like, "I really appreciate you wanting to know more about me, and I will share more as I get comfortable." It conveys openness while maintaining your privacy. But, Bowman, I think your concern about knowing too much about someone, potential becoming a stranger, is important. But here's the thought. Perhaps we can reframe the what if scenario. Instead of seeing it as a loss if things don't work out, consider it a life lesson. See, each person we connect with teaches us something invaluable, whether it's about love, trust, or even about ourselves. Think about it in this way. The intimate parts of ourselves that we share are not diminutive when relationships end. In fact, they make us richer individuals. You are not giving away your essence. You are adding layers to your life experience. Now, this mindset can help liberate you from the fear of vulnerability. But in the end, it's all about balance. We want to protect ourselves, but also desire connection. Now, it's going to be an ongoing process. So embrace the journey. Allow yourself to be open, but remain mindful of your feelings and boundaries. Once again, thank you so much for your question, Bowman. Your willingness to explore these tough subjects is what makes conversations like this meaningful. For anyone listening, if you find yourself in a similar position, remember that you're not alone in this struggle. Feel free to reach out, share your experiences, and let's keep this discussion going. Now, as we wrap up today's episode, let's take a moment to highlight the key takeaways we've discussed. We've delved deeply into the impact of emotional barriers in both social and workplace settings. First, we explored the feelings of inequity that nearly 70% of individuals experience in social situations. Many of us struggle to express ourselves, especially in environments where we fear judgment from others. This pressure often leads to silence, avoidance, and a cycle of increased anxiety and disconnection. We also examined the fear of judgment that keeps over 60% of people from participating in social opportunities. This avoidance not only affects our self-esteem, but also limits our personal development and the chance to build meaningful connections. In the workplace, I shared how around 50% of employees feel inhibited in expressing their opinions due to fear of negative consequences. This culture of silence can stifle the innovation and hinder collaboration, ultimately affecting the overall team performance and morale. Furthermore, we also discussed how disengagement can lead to significant productivity losses. And I made sure to mention how, according to Gallup, this can cost organizations between $450 and $550 billion annually. This disengagement can create a toxic cycle that compromises the psychological safety and the workplace environment safety, making it difficult for employees to feel comfortable sharing their ideas. Lastly, we touched on the long-term effects of these barriers on career advancement. When we don't advocate for ourselves, we might miss out on crucial growth opportunities, leading to career stagnation and frustration. In recognizing and addressing these barriers, we pave the way for improved communication, deeper connections, and enhanced emotional well-being for both individuals and organizations. Now, as we look ahead, I'm excited to give you a little sneak peek into our next episode titled Navigating Relationships in Recovery. We'll dive into the intricacies of maintaining relationships during recovery, an aspect that can often be both challenging and rewarding. Whether it's friendships, family ties, or romantic partnerships, we'll explore how to communicate effectively, set boundaries, and foster healthy connections. This journey is crucial as we learn to nurture relationships that support our recovery journey while also finding ways to cultivate new ones. So stay tuned for invaluable insights and experiences that can help guide you or someone you know through this aspect of recovery. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to listen and engage with this conversation. Your thoughts and experiences are incredibly valuable, and I encourage you to share your insights about this episode. Reach out through social media or even join our Discord community to continue this discussion. Let's keep the conversation going. Together, we can support one another and create a positive environment for growth and understanding. I'm looking forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and your voice matters. Every step you take towards growth is a victory worth celebrating. Embrace the journey, stay resilient, and continue to rise above challenges. We're in this together, and your story is a powerful testament to the courage and determination. So keep pushing forward and never doubt the impact you can make.